the recording. All right. Welcome to QASIG, everybody. We're just going to wait a minute and let people join, and then we will get started. Excited to have James Bach with us tonight. He's going to be doing a demo. We'll just give it a minute. Yeah, looks like we have a great crowd tonight. Oh, Michael Bolton says hi there. Yeah.
Hi, Michael Bolton.
Cool. Well, looks like we have a good crowd in here. So, Jim, do you want to kick us off?
Absolutely. I'll just start us off with a little bit of housekeeping for the evening. Please keep in mind that you will be on mute during the presentation. At the end of the presentation, you can put your questions in either in raise your hand, or the Q&A or chat is usually the best place. So we will hold and let James do his presentation and then hold those questions until the end. We do have the brothers Bach with us tonight. John is a long time host of QASIG, and our principal tonight is James. So we have the brother team tonight, which should be a lot of fun. And with that, let me hand it over to you, James, and I will follow up at the end, or John, with answering questions.
Okay, so I'm going to speak about an irresistible pun, the rote less traveled, which really is a strained pun, I understand, but I did check it out in the dictionary. It is fair to say, if you're talking about an automated process, you can call it a rote process. It is fair to say the rote less traveled. So I'm interested in how automation work that I've been doing in testing for many years, for decades, is still actually rather rare when I visit companies, when people come and take my classes and talk to me about what they're doing. When I look at how things are talked about on LinkedIn or on various testing chat rooms that I frequent, I just see automation thought of in one way. And I'm surprised after all these years that it's that way. I have a few theories about why it's that way, but I want to do what I can to broaden your minds about what automation can do for us. You might have heard that I'm anti-automation. That scurrilous rumor is totally without foundation. I started as a developer and became a tester after that. Then I was in development tools work for 8 years as a test manager at Apple Computer and at Borland, where I tested tools for developers, and everyone I hired was a programmer. Having said that, I think automation is vastly overrated and too many people think that you can automate testing. I don't think you can automate testing. And you'll notice that I will never use the phrase automated testing without doing creepy quotes around it. Instead, I will talk about automation as in terms of automation for the service of testers. Automation that helps testers in different ways. That does not in any way automate my work, because my work has never been pushing buttons. That is not the work of a tester. So if I get a computer to push buttons, I'm not automating my work. My work is thinking work. Just as developers do not automate their work and call it automated programming, they call it creating a build process. They don't say it's automated programming. Nobody says it's automated programmer. No programmer ever says to another programmer, are you a manual or an automated programmer? Nobody ever says that. 0 people. Why? Think about it. It's because everybody knows programming is something you do with your mind, and that's not the part that's getting automated. I feel the same way about testing. So you'll never hear me say automated testing, since I gave up using that term like one of those smokers gives up smoking and then becomes a rabid anti-smoker. That's what I did a few years ago. So I will use the word automation, and I will talk about the concepts. And I'm very much into using tools of all kinds to help me test. So let's get into it. I just have a few slides, and then I want to show you some examples. This is the typical formula that I see on LinkedIn and all the chat rooms. You get your GUI test execution tool. Lots of companies, including a company I'm working for. I'm a technical fellow at Tricentis right now. My company sells you an expensive GUI test tool if you want one of those. You define a lot of simple test procedures, automate them, fix it, keep fixing it, fix it more. It's broken again. It's still broken. You fixed it last night. It's broken in the morning. This happened to me literally last night when I was up late to get ready for a test session with two of my testing buddies at Tricentis. And I got my script all working. Everything was fine. And then we started and I gave my tool to my fellow tester, and it immediately broke. It immediately wouldn't work. And it turned out that the developers had made a change in our product the very night I was working on this. They just fixed the last couple of little bugs, which changed the format of a JSON, and my tool stopped working. So it took us an hour to recover our work and get it working so that we could then start testing, but then the meeting was over and we didn't have time anymore. So we're going to try again tomorrow. This is normal. This is life in testing if you work with automation. The typical formula boils down to user simulation. User simulation is what everyone who says test automation means by that. They mean user simulation automation. I am going to make a little tool and it's going to pretend to be a little user running around pushing all the buttons. Here's the user. Here is the poorly imagined user that the tester writes the test cases about. And then this is what actually gets implemented in the automation. Now, I already can do a little example right now because what I wanted to show you today was something called Cryptpad Kanban. This is a product online. You can go here, cryptpad.fr, and you yourself can create a little Kanban board here and move things around and create some new Kanban items and move them around. And whoa, it's a lot of fun. So this is like a free Kanban board piece of software. Now I challenged the guy who wrote a tool, open source tool called Selenium Base. I challenged him to write a script that would automate this. And what I wanted to automate was I wanted him to create 3 boards, each with 1,000 items in it, and then to move random items from board to board automatically without me doing anything. He had been telling me that I'm overblowing and exaggerating, and it's a lot easier to do automation than I think. Of course, the guy is like 25 years younger than me. It's like the same age as my son, telling me I must have got it wrong with all these years of experience I have. It can't be that bad because he does it all the time. Now I'm rubbing it in a little bit with the poor guy because I know what happened next. One thing I have to say is the guy who did this is I'm blanking on his name. Michael Bolton knows his name. It's Mintz, Michael Mintz. Is that the guy's name? He's super nice. Okay. He's smart. He's nice. He's super helpful. And I want his tool to work. But here's what happens when I run the script that he gave me. I'm going to run it right now. Now, what's happening is it's creating this thing on another screen here, but I'll just move it up to this screen and it should be okay. I don't think this is going to break anything. So it's trying to load Cryptpad now, and it's going to succeed at that. So it goes along here. Okay, it's running this. Now there's what's going to happen is there's going to be little pop-up that comes up in the bottom here. And this pop-up is a big problem. And there, as soon as that comes up, it gives me this. Okay, human, your move. Now this is exactly what happened the first time he sent me the script, and then we worked for a couple of hours on it together, and he found a way to fix it. And he said it turns out it was a timing problem between his Macintosh and my Windows system. So he adjusted some timings, and then it started working. And at that point, I made a tiny little change to it, and it broke again for a different reason. But I can't even get there now because I haven't run this for a while. It just came back, tried to run it, and I'm back to this first thing. So I don't know if this is still a timing problem. There's something to do with the visibility, but anyone who works in automation and really has experience with it, you're now saying, this is the story of my life. This happens literally every day to me, James. If anyone who does GUI automation is, you might be very good at resolving these problems, but you spend a lot of your time puzzling over how am I going to get stuff like this to run, which is why I recommend don't do GUI automation. I go underneath the GUI when you're gonna automate. I do everything I can to go underneath the GUI. So anyway, since this doesn't run and I can't really show you what it does, it has a really interesting design bug in it that I can't even show you now because I can't get the thing going. And honestly, I don't know what's wrong with it. And I didn't have time before this thing to find out. What I'm going to do is show you a different thing. But wait, I want to just do my last slide, and then I can show you the different thing. Okay, there we go. There, see this, you only need one slide. When you know how to put text on a slide, you don't need more than one slide. This is meant to be a slide that feels like being stung by a swarm of bees. Doesn't it kind of feel like your eyes being like just attacked by gray bees? They're kind of all out of focus. But there's I like doing slides like this when I'm trying to convey that there's too much to talk about. There's too much to talk about. We could sit here, we can talk about it for a long time. That I don't expect you to read all this. I'm going to provide these materials to Jim, and then he can post them or whatever. But just, I'm going to point out a few things. There's lots of different kinds of ways that we can use tools, folks. We can use tools to help us produce test data. This is actually my favorite thing is this stuff up here, producing test data with tools, generating interesting combinations of test data that might help me generate flows through the product. It might, I might do different things with product interactions, such as I might write code that probes the internal state of a system while I am running it. So, and then it will record data that's happening as I am interacting with the product. I'm working on a tool right now, which is a proxy tool. It sits on a separate server in the cloud between you and the thing you're testing, assuming you're testing web-based software. And it just watches everything that goes between you and the client, and it tries to make a map of that. And then over time, it tries to figure out what you have tested and what you have not tested. And of course, there's a lot of tuning that you have to do for each individual kind of application. So I'm focusing on just a few kinds of applications right now. One of the things I'm doing is looking at eBay and just seeing if I can watch myself use eBay and have the tool give me insights into what aspects of eBay I'm looking at, what aspects I'm not looking at. But notice that this tool's not driving anything. It's just watching and making a map of the stuff that I test to give me more insight into what I have and what I have not tested. I think we need more tools like that. But I honestly don't know a single tester that I've ever talked to that routinely uses a proxy tool as a test coverage analysis tool on the level of test data. I've never heard of anybody doing that. Maybe there is somebody maybe somebody out there is doing that and it's just, secret, talk about it. But I haven't heard anyone talk about that. I don't know where I can go to find such a tool all ready to go for testers. Yes, you can find proxy servers for different purposes, but a proxy tool for the purposes of analyzing traffic to help you understand your test coverage, I haven't heard anybody doing that. So I'm working on that right now, just as my own little project. I can use tools to help me automatically detect problems. I can use tools for, we just talked about recording, but there's also reporting tools. I can use tools, of course, to help me manage my testing in different ways. Lots of different ways that I can use tools. Okay, so that's all the slides I have. Now I want to show you some stuff. So when I was looking at this, I chose this to use in a class, a testing class that I teach called Rapid Software Testing Applied, which I'm teaching the week after next, by the way. That's the only marketing thing I'm going to say this whole time. And so at every one of these classes, we have to test something. And one of the classes we tested this. So I was looking at how can I write a tool to help me test this? And I came upon this idea, export and import. So I exported one of these boards and I figured out what the format was. It exports it in JSON format. So then I wrote a tool that, here's the tool. So this is a tool written in Perl, although I've started to switch to Python. So now I write my tools in Python, but for many years I've written them in Perl. And this is a tool that creates random Kanban boards. And you see here that I've put in various kinds of data as example data. And then this data gets processed. And if you didn't know anything about programming, but you knew about testing, what I would do is give you this tool. And then I would say, here's what you can do, non-programmer tester. You can edit this to your heart's content. You can change these numbers, and that'll change the probability of different kinds of structures being created. You can run the tool from the command line. Let me show you how to run it. So this says create a Kanban board with one board and 3 items on it.
Just to clarify, this is below the graphical user interface, right?
Right. This is just creating a data file that we're going to suck into the Kanban thing. So this is right here. This is create a Kanban board with 100 columns and 500 items, 5,000 items in each column. And this is going to be it's going to eat up a bunch of memory. Actually, I probably shouldn't have. I was feeling my oats a moment ago when I added that 0. I've never put this many in. Okay, it's doing it. So it's dumping out all of the IDs that it's created. Oh, that's why it took so long. It has to create all the items in advance. So it just created 50,000 items. Sorry, 500,000 items. And then here are all the items it created. Now, if I tried to import this, it would kill Cryptpad Kanban. So this is a stress test. That's fine. Well, I'm not going to do that. Here's what I'll do. I'm going to say import, and I'll import a wide and shallow one. Okay, this one has, I think, 25 different columns, and each one I think has 10 items in it. Let's I could scroll down. Yeah, 10 items in each one. But notice that each of these items I've randomly chosen from a bunch of different possible things. I've got long pieces of text. I've got different kinds of formatting that has been applied. And look at this. These are all the tags. I stuck tags in. So everywhere that I used color 5, for instance, I've put a tag that says color 5, which apparently is green, because this is just showing me green ones. And what if I want to just look at color 6? Then it's going to show me, oh, the cyan ones. Okay, now I get the cyan ones. When I was first showing this off, after I had first created this, the first thing I showed to my friend Michael Bolton is I turned on the bold and I said, all of these have to have bold in them. And we started scrolling down and we realized that some of them didn't have bold. Like, where's the bold in this? And we discovered, turns out that's a bug, because it turns out that if you have a bullet item before a bold in one of these things, it deactivates bold and makes it so that bold doesn't work anymore. So I've found that bug pretty quickly just by playing around with this. So what you have here is a rich exploratory field that you now can use to maximize the chance that you're going to find interesting bugs in this Kanban, because you have interesting data. And watch this. I can take something from this board, move it over to here to this board. Oh, is it going to work? Okay, let's move it over to here to this board. Okay, move it over here to another one to this board. Maybe one more to this board. Okay. And then now I can go, each one of those items has a tag on it that says it originally came from this board. AJO something. So if I go up here and say, there it is, AJO something, and use that tag, then I should see the ones that I just moved to those other boards. So this is testing the filtering system. It's testing indirectly whether the movement is happening correctly. One of the bugs I found using this fake data is I found that if I didn't have the exact right format for the stuff that was imported, then whenever I would move something, it would get copied. So it would stay the same place it was, and it would get moved, which is a weird little bug. But now that I traced that back to the fact that I was formatting the file slightly incorrectly. So once I fixed that, it stopped doing that. So what is this tool doing? This tool is helping make our testing more interesting, because now I can do any other kind of testing that I want. I can create a new board over here and add stuff to it, and I could ignore all these other boards and just do my own thing over here. Or I can take something from these other boards and add them in. I can ignore these tags if I don't want to deal with them, or I can add more tags. I can test the filtering, the display, the rendering, all this stuff. And why isn't there more people using automation in that way? Why aren't people talking about this all the time? Because to me, it's the single most interesting use of automation in testing. Produce complex, fascinating test data so that you are pulled like a hot air balloon carrying you high into the atmosphere. You're taken automatically to more interesting places for you to test. Okay, here's another example. A few months ago, I had to be the judge on a testing contest, and about 16 teams competed and produced test reports for this 2-week testing contest. They had 2 weeks. Now, no one was working on it full time, of course, but they put whatever time they wanted to put in. So I'm not even supposed to be competing. So I'm not competing. I'm a judge. But in order to judge this thing, I thought I should test it myself. So in preparation for looking at what other people did, I start looking through, and what I found is I did this. I said, let's see, I think I said discover, and then I think I said search for science. I think I did that. And then I found the science book. I clicked on the middle one, and I got this. Oh, it's a 500 error with a really ugly error message. So then I thought, hey, if I could just randomly click on stuff and see 500 errors, I wonder how many other 500 errors there are. I know, I'll just write a script that downloads every single book in the entire database. And it turns out there was 2,500 books in the database. Well, I didn't do it by hand. I used a little library called Mechanize and just told it to go grab every single book. It turned out, because of the way this is designed, it was quite easy. And then I started tricking that out and adding more features to that. And eventually I wrote a program that not only downloaded all the books, it created this spreadsheet. This spreadsheet pulls the information out of all the books that get downloaded, and it asks a series of questions automatically so these are automated checks. These are things I don't have to check by hand. Is the book cover link a good link? Is the title author code on one line and not two lines inside the HTML? Is the book content link good? Is the author picture link a valid link? It turns out in one case, you see here, the picture link was broken. And then the tool I wrote will automatically fill these in with little red X's whenever it sees a problem. But the reason why it's filling out this spreadsheet like this is because then I go through manually and I sample each of these elements. So here's this thing, infidel. It looks like author's name should be Ion Hersey Ali. That's something I discovered when I actually went to their name. So this author name is incorrectly done. You see, it says right here, Ion Hersey Ali, and yet it's only Ion Hersey here. So I think they just put the wrong name into the database. And you see it's on the book, it's Ion Hersey Ali. So it seems to me like that should be consistent. I had to use my human judgment to detect that problem. I don't have any tool that can read graphical book covers and then make social judgments about whether an author's name is close enough on the page. So I spent a few hours and went through and checked a bunch of these books. I checked a couple hundred out of the 2,400 in addition to the ones that were automatically checked by my tool. Now, when I was judging this thing, one of the testers said that one of the bugs she found was that there were 21 out of 690 author pages that didn't have any books listed for that author. She did that by hand. She went to every single author page because she felt like it was necessary to do, but she didn't do any automation. So in order to check her work, I just wrote a script to do that. And what I found was, it's right here. What I found is that she was right. There are 21 that don't have any, but here's what she didn't see. There were also, there's also this other guy who didn't have any, and one more. This one is someone who has 2 books, but only 1 book showed up on his author page. Now, that's not something that a human is going to know unless they are connected in with the database. Because I had downloaded every single book in the entire database, I knew which books were associated with which authors. So I did this automatically. Now, this is the kind of thing that if you're not a programmer, you might not even ask for because you think it's hard to do. And you think that programmers are bothered and they've got too much to do and they don't want to help you. This is why I think that every test team should have access to a toolsmith whose main job is to write tools to help testing. And that toolsmith has to be a marketer and a consultant. That toolsmith has to be going to those people saying, here's what I can do for you. Years ago, we had at Apple Computer, we had administrative assistants. And then at a certain point, they disappeared. Somewhere around 1990, administrative assistants largely disappeared from the R&D group at Apple Computer, where I worked. The thing is, why did they disappear? I think I can tell you why they disappeared. They disappeared because the administrative assistants, nobody knew how to use them. Like, I didn't know what I could ask them for. Am I insulting you by asking you to make copies for me? Or like, what can I ask you to do? I don't know. I don't want to insult you. That's how the engineers felt Like, I don't want you to feel bad when I ask you to do something, so I just won't ask you to do anything. Well, they all lost their jobs. What they should have been doing, assuming that they wanted to be working at Apple doing administrative work, is you have to go out and you got to say, here's what I can do for you. Let me do this for you. I love doing it. It's why I'm here. Please ask me for this. It thrills me to do this. I have to do that when I'm a toolsmith and I'm working with testers. I have to tell them this is the kind of thing I can do. And maybe I can do lots of other things. It never hurts to ask me. Sometimes I get a kick out of staying up all night and doing a challenge that somebody puts in front of me. It just makes me feel good to do it. So always ask.
So I have a question. So the tool that you demonstrated, you have a bit of a marketing problem. What would you call that tool that you built that about making all this beautiful data combinatorics of different Kanban views?
Oh, well, I would call that a data generator.
Okay.
And the purpose of a data generator or a data synthesizer is to produce rich and interesting test data. Now, it could be built up from a model, or it could be abstracted from real life examples. Either way, so there's different ways to do it. You can also have something that just selects from real life examples. So you have a database of real life examples. I have another example of this to show you, actually, which is a great example. So let me find where my thing is. Okay. So if I go over here, and where is there it is, demo pics. Okay. Let's show this. Okay. So somebody asked me to help them get pictures to test a social media app. Okay, so I found online some different resources to create random pictures, but I didn't like them very much. I wanted something more naturalistic. These are kind of stock photos, and they would just give you different versions of that picture over and over again. I wanted really interesting stuff. So let me just go forward. I found this. Met Museum releases 375,000 images for free. Unrestricted use. So I thought, what if I download these things and make them into test data? So I went looking for them. I found out how to download them. I got all the metadata. This is a 200 megabyte metadata file. And I grabbed all that metadata, which is a pretty simple script to grab them all. And the pictures look like this, and they have different metadata on the page. And so I scraped all that, and I let my computer run for a while, and I got about 50,000 images by just downloading them intensively. And then I extracted all the metadata out of the files themselves, and I kept doing that until I got myself a massive spreadsheet that had all kinds of cool stuff in it. And here were all of the data fields that I was able to extract from all of that metadata. Now, I'm going through this really fast because the punchline is kind of funny, and it comes up here at the end. I found lots and lots and lots of stuff in the metadata, but there are only a few things that are really interesting, like X and Y resolution and height and that sort of thing, out of 500 or more fields. Okay, so then I had to find a way to make these images useful. So I had this idea of putting descriptive text around the outside of each thing. And the descriptive text would describe the test data, the file size, the dimensions, the URL to the original picture, and a text description of that picture. And the idea is that this kind of watermarking will help, because once we start using these to test the social media app, then we'll find out if an image gets cropped, does it get resized, does it get downsampled? Because if it gets downsampled, you won't be able to read the text anymore. And we'll notice that. So I used a tool called Image Magic to do all this stuff. And all this stuff took a few days to do. And this is an example of the output. So this is a real small graphic, 10 kilobytes. And you see it's got little text all around. And now we can use that. And here's one that's a really big graphic, but it has the metadata around the outside as well. If you zoom in, you would see that. And this is an analysis of the different dimensions of the different pictures. So this is X and Y and X. And this gives you a clue that there's something wrong. Because if you look at this, you see these clusters right here. And right there, you see these. What this is evidence, of course, that these pictures have been photoshopped. In fact, I think every single one of these 375,000 pictures has been photoshopped, which makes it not very interesting test data for a social media platform that's not for photographers. So I did all this work, and then I realized that I had constructed a database of not very interesting data. It was actually weird data rather than naturalistic data. And that was kind of funny when it was pointed out to me. I wish I had thought of it before I did a big presentation about this at a meetup in Sweden.
So how is that evidence that it's photoshopped? I lost that.
Yeah, this has all been photoshopped. And you know how I know? Because look at these clusters. Do you see this is the sizes of the different pictures. And because you look at this, what you know is that these pictures many of them have been cropped, because otherwise it's suspiciously coincidental. Some of the ways that the patterns here are very
I see. Okay.
they're gravitating towards certain values. And I realized, well, of course, these are pictures of museum objects by professional photographers. They're all done with professional cameras. These are stuff taken on your iPhone. So I was trying to get naturalistic pictures, and instead I ended up with like weird, nerdy pictures that are not naturalistic. They were still of some use for doing the testing. Here's an example of a downsampled image, for instance, where all the data that I put in there has been smudged out because of that. But it was a fun process to try to gather all this data and put it into a usable form. But this is an example of something that you need to watch out about if you love tools like I do, which is it can be so much fun to work with the tools and you think, oh, this is so cool. Wait till they see what I can do. That you sometimes, it happens more than half the time for me. I'll wake up at a certain point and go, oh, I kind of got lost in the coolness, and I stopped thinking, is this important? Is this going to lead me to find important bugs? So if you're going to do this sort of thing, you need to be led by testers. The tools people need to be led by the testers. Because when I go into my tool development mind, I'm thinking like a programmer, not like a tester. I can't really keep that testing stuff in my head. At the same time, I'm trying to figure out how to make something happen in Python. So I sort of come up for air every so often, but what I would rather have is a colleague, like my brother John, for instance. I love developing tools when I'm working and testing with John, because he keeps me focused on what's the point, what are we trying to do, and keeps me from floating away into the stratosphere.
There's another component that I want to inject, and you demonstrated it, is sometimes as a tester, and you're my developer counterpart, I say, this is what I'm trying to find. This is an idea of a risk or a vulnerability I have in my head, and I can't scale it. And so what do you suggest? And you give me some ideas. But then you might come with a tool like you just did and say, hey, you didn't ask for this, but this is what you can find that you didn't ask me about. Photoshopping, cropping, See the clustering here? Now
Right.
all of a sudden I have an oracle, a principle or method that helps me find a problem that I didn't have before. So I didn't know I wanted that until you showed it to me.
Right.
And one of the questions that I feel that is relevant now is from Valeria here on the call. And she's actually building a business where she's the tester, her boyfriend's a developer, and she wants to talk about your perspective about that perfect dev tester collaboration. And what does that look like? And for me, what jumped out is, here's what I want as a tester, but you saying, yeah, I can do that for you, but did you know you could also get this? And then I'm inspired as a tester based on your demo.
Yeah. But I think that the kind of collaboration I want is I want to be respected for what I contribute, and I want to be forgiven for what I don't contribute. And this is something that you kind of get pretty much automatically when you have a team of very diverse people, because then everybody knows that I'm the only one here who has this skill. You're the only one who has that skill. I mean, we can't do it without you. You can't do it without me. We all have to depend on each other. When you have people who are more the same, because maybe they all went through the same education, or they went through the same interview process, it's harder to get that. You have to just kind of want to get along. But I found that in highly diversified teams, it's quite easy to achieve this interdependence excitement, this interdependence constructivity, where you say, like, I hope you're not gonna, tease me about being bad at mathematics, and I won't tease you about being terrible at drawing. And then that guy, he's good at writing, so let's stay on his good side, so he'll write all our stuff for us. And like that. So I am particularly, I'm pretty good at programming, but there's lots of people who are better at programming than I am. When it comes to programming, I'm kind of like an expert paramedic, and sometimes a cardiac surgeon comes along, and I'm like, you just take over, go ahead and do what you do, and I'll support you. I'll go buy you ice cream. That's the way I'll support you. Is so I like one of the finest things that I ever saw in management was I walked into a cubicle at Hewlett Packard in the year 2000. It was just before you were there, John. And I saw this fella sitting in a chair, leaning back. He was way back, staring at the ceiling, and he was talking at the ceiling. And in front of him was a guy bent over a keyboard, writing down everything that the guy said. Now, the guy leaning back was an intern. The guy leaning forward was his boss. And the intern was interning at this really interesting integrated circuit program. And he was full of all the latest ideas of hardware testing. And his manager realized that the best way he could use this guy is to get him talking, just get those ideas going. And the best thing he could do is just be the recorder to record that. I love that kind of leadership. I have a picture somewhere of a woman leaning over a table with a platter full of croissants and stuff, offering it to some testers who have their heads down working. And I love this picture because she's the manager of everyone in the room. And what she was trying to do in that particular case was she was trying to stay out of the decision-making because she was trying to get one of her lieutenants to practice being in charge. So she was doing things to distract herself so that she wouldn't start telling everybody what to do. So she decided she was going to serve food to do that. And I just thought that's another great example of this kind of interdependence and this way of trying to it's not about subverting your ego, because a lot of times people go like, oh, that you're getting your ego you're putting your ego, you're locking it in a closet in the dungeon. So you come to work with no ego. No, it's more like that you are finding your ego is stroked by seeing the people that you serve be successful. And that makes you feel pretty proud of yourself.
I think the common foundation I would say to Valeria is both the developer, the toolsmith, and the tester have to have a shared concern or worry about bad things happening. And when we wrote the session-based test management tool side by side, you were coding in Perl and I was testing builds, right? You would hand me floppy diskettes, right? If you remember. And yes, I think that's the spirit of agility, is rapid real-time feedback. But I was also, it was like a jazz session. I was brainstorming what I wanted out of this based on specifications you and I had brainstormed.
Yeah. As a developer, I'm thinking that my work with you is the fastest and best way for me to look like I'm a genius. Because if you find my problems before outsiders find them, the outsiders will never know that there were problems there. So it's so there's that. And as a tester, I want to present myself to the developer as a supportive person. I want to say my fervent hope is that when you work with me, you'll feel your burdens being eased, not added to. I don't want to be a fly buzzing around your head, distracting you. I want to be someone helping you to face the difficult things that you need to face. Now, I'm going to do that in a particular way. I'm going to do that by doubting. I'm going to do that by being sharp and critical. I'm going to be your bodyguard, which means you get to smile and shake hands while I suspiciously eye the crowd. Okay. And because I'm suspiciously eyeing the crowd, you can smile and shake hands. That allows you to be totally in that moment because I'm covering your back.
It's funny, I just used that analogy the other day. What if the president had to be his own or her own Secret Service, right? It's like, you wouldn't
maybe you could do it, but I mean, it would be pretty tough. I want to give you one more example. This is something that will be close to John's heart: eBay search behavior. So John had me helping him with eBay search testing some years ago. And I decided to do the same search over and over and over and over and over again, and just measure how many hits I got from one search. It was for aeroplane.
Yeah, this is about 10 years ago, by the way. So this is pretty old, but it's a really cool.
I did it. So I did the search about once per second. I did this search and just recorded how many, and I wrote a little script to just do this in a loop. And so I got this very strange graph. Look at this graph. What's going on? I mean, I thought it would go up and down a little bit, but why are there different layers? And what's this layer down here? This is 1,000 lower than this up here. And it's once in a while, it just drops 1,000 and then bounces back up again. And then it drops 100 and then bounces back. And then it drops 60 and then bounces. And it's always a little bit different. It's never exactly the same. And you see here, it even gets even more randomy. So John and I were trying to figure out, what does this mean? What does this mean about search behavior? And so I did a bunch of different kinds of analyses. I wrote all this R code. I did animated histograms to see if I could get some stuff out of that. I did sub searches, and then I did correlation plots of the sub searches and correlating different kinds of searches against each other. I tried to glean whatever I could from these different simultaneous graphs, and eventually we got some clues. And one of the clues we got is that eBay uses Hadoop, which is a distributed file system. So it turns out, then we had a theory. The theory is when you do a search of eBay, the search is divided into 1,000 different searches to 1,000 different tiny servers. Each one of those servers replies and everything is added up. But what if some of those servers don't make the bus? They don't get their results on time, and so they get left out. Then you would have this behavior. So this is output from a simulated process where I said, what if we have 1,000 servers, but 15 of them have a 5% chance of not getting their answers in on time. One of them has a 20% chance of not getting its answers in on time. And once in a while, 30 servers all at once in one particular group will not give any answer. Then you get this kind of a graph, which looks quite similar to what we actually did get. Now, what does this have to do with testing? What I'm showing you here is that we used tools to help us analyze and understand a system, which is a big part of testing. So once we had worked this out, then that comes back to John, who is in charge of search testing at one point in eBay, which is this a problem? And John said, well, if you remember, John, you said, well, it might be a problem because we have certain contractual obligations about search results. So we may need to get to the bottom of this and find out, are we or are we not meeting our contractual obligations to various clients that we have who expect their stuff to show up reliably when you try to search it. So that's another example. And let's see, 651. I'll do one more. Okay, here I'm testing a diagramming program called Inkscape. And I wrote a program to generate 10,000 little diamonds all in this little formation. And I wanted to try to use this to test something called the distribute feature. So I said distribute on the vertical and horizontal axis. And this is what I got. And this, I didn't understand. This looks like a weird organic creature. It doesn't look like a mathematically rigorous object at all. It looks like it's a living thing, like it's a photomicrograph of a virus or something. So I want to make sense of this. I asked the question, did it do it right or not? Now I need an oracle in order to find out. I needed something that can tell me if this is right or wrong. So as I was investigating, I found out that for one thing, I didn't understand the distribute feature. So I had confused the distribute feature with the unclump feature. The unclump feature takes this and turns it into something that's almost exactly the same. And that's what I was expecting, really. But what the distribute feature does is it distributes things along a line so that everything is in its own unique position. So the question is, with this blob here, is each and every one of these 10,000 objects in a unique X position and in a unique Y position? So that if any one of these objects were to go straight down or straight up or straight sideways, it would be able to get out of this blob without hitting any other object. So I took the data, I pulled it out of the SVG format, I brought it into R. The R language is in the R Studio environment. It's a wonderful free environment for doing data analysis. And I got every one of those 10,000 things, and I found out that actually each one of these things is in a unique position. It might look strange, but it's actually completely correct. And I know this analytically rather than just having to look at it. So this is a test tool. This is an analytical test tool that I have used to analyze data so that there's no guesswork at all. I did the same thing with this. I made this little circular thing and I used the distribute on that, and I got this weird diamond. And it's kind of a shaggy diamond. And I pulled it into the same process and I found out this is wrong. This is a bug. What it should have looked like is this. This diamond formation is exactly what it should have been. So instead it was a shaggy diamond. And that's because of a bug in Inkscape that comes up when you use a certain process to position objects. I was using a particular feature to rotate around and drop objects around, and that that thing had a bug in it so that it would not have the positions be correctly encoded into the file. So that's what caused this shaggedy result. Again, I wouldn't be able to tell that if I didn't have tools like this that I could potentially use to analytically check this out. So all I'm saying, guys, is that there's lots of different ways to use tools. You should have a toolsmith. Unless you are a toolsmith, you should have a toolsmith available to you. You should periodically ask questions like, are we using the tools most effectively right here and now so that we find the bugs that matter to us and we find them fast?
Awesome. All right, so let me officially open it up to questions. Thanks, James. It seems to me like in the first few minutes of the talk, as you imported all that stuff into Cryptpad, there are hundreds of ideas for tests that I could just, all I have to do is sit back now that you imported that you created that data and all the variants. I just sit back and examine and try to find interesting relationships between the Kanban, yes, the relationship between all these variables, color, font size, text type, and it's just amazing now what you set me up for. If you were my partner on this as a toolsmith, I'd be like, okay, you don't have to do anything for a while. This is going to keep me busy. But wow, what a palette to work with as a tester now to just find bugs in any way I see relationships for. That being said, for you participants, please click the Q&A button and then type any question there, and I'll make sure to relay it here in real time. And yes, James will. I'll make sure James gives his this tool. Now, are you still working on this tool? You just like people can have it? Are you going to do revs of it?
I'm happy to give you this tool, but it's a tool that's quite specific to this particular product.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. Yeah.
I am working on some general purpose tools. A tester in India has decided that I am going to work with him for free each week, and we are going to do a session each week. We've been doing them for the past 15 weeks so far. And we are going to create an open source tool that we're going to put out on GitHub. He just decided this and informed me. Well, he asked nicely, but he's really pushing. And I just said, okay, yeah, I guess that sounds good. And I like working with him. I like performing for him. And I think it's an interesting challenge that he's set up. This guy is a random guy that just came into my life last year. And I love when that happens. Just someone who loves testing, who wants to practice testing with me and challenges me to do that. And I mean, I don't have a whole lot of time for that, but he decided, let's do this. And it's been so much fun that we just kept doing it. So I am working on an open source data synthesis tool that will be a general purpose data synthesis tool that will, it actually looks like this right now. Right now we don't have a front end on it. You give it JSONs. So this is just a list of different elements. These are just lists. But what's cool is you have these functions like combos, and this takes these lists up above and turns it into a table. And then you can take the table and you can give it to a template and turn that into files. And then you can sample the files and you can generate lists, and then you can turn all those into new files. So the whole idea is to have this pipeline of all these different transformations that lead to more and more complicated data that fits any format that you want. And we're using it to do JSONs right now because JSONs are so popular as a format that if you have a tool that can synthesize all kinds of different JSONs, you can do a lot to help your testing. So we are working on a tool slowly. that will do that, and we're going to have a GitHub thing about it when we feel like we've gone far enough that someone could see that it's a useful tool.
That's cool. Okay. But people are obviously free to email you. Do you still do Skype sessions?
Yeah, I do Skype sessions. I'm on Telegram, LinkedIn. I guess I prefer Telegram. I do Skype. I do Zoom. I've got my own, I've got a professional Zoom account, so I Zoom with people all the time. Each day I'm Zooming with at least somebody. My closest colleague is Michael Bolton. I probably do a Zoom session with him every other day, every day of the year.
Well, Michael says there's also the Rapid Software Testing Slack forum, and that's public.
Right.
Okay.
We also have the Rapid Software Testing Slack forum. That's right. That's for people who've taken RST, although we do let some people into it who are really interested in RST and haven't yet taken the class. That's a really active forum. I actually find it kind of an intimidating forum. It's a lot of work to keep up with all of the activity on the RST Slack forum. There is an Indian-oriented forum. It invites everyone, but mostly Indians are on it right now, called the Test Chat. And they also have a YouTube channel. It's quite good. It's moderated by some wonderful people, and I want to support them. So I do monitor what's going on the Telegram Test Chat channel. Yeah, Telegram, Zoom, Skype, LinkedIn.
Yeah, and these are things you don't
any of those.
You don't charge for. This is just you being
no, I
in
know,
our community.
this is it's how I do my marketing, so I don't charge for stuff when I just talk to people, because I do it on a time available basis. I do it in my own way, at my own speed. As soon as you pay me, you become my customer, and then the stress level goes way up. So, but it's also marketing, because some people that I have helped for free have turned into clients who have paid me a lot of money. So take advantage of that. Absolutely. I just get a lot of energy. I get a lot of pleasure from helping people, because I guarantee if I help you and then you later become famous, I'll be out there saying it's all because of me. I made that person.
Yeah.
You'll have to suffer that.
I'm an example. The 26 years in software testing.
I taught him everything he knows about testing. Whatever his success is because of me.
Dude,
I'm really proud. I'm very proud of people that I've helped, and I love doing it.
Yeah, cool. All right, we just had a question come in. It's John wants to speak. You to speak more about coverage, and he asks, "Are you able to do this across secure connections?"
Well, it depends what your kind of tool you're talking about. If you are talking about the proxy tool that I referred to earlier, which sits between you and the server and your client at your system, and you can test something in the cloud and it watches everything. Yes, you can go through secure connections. Now, what you have to do to make it work, it's based on a tool that's an open source tool out there called MITM, Man in the Middle Proxy. You can look it up for yourself, MITM Proxy. And what I'm doing is I'm writing a filter tool on top of that, which pulls stuff out of that stream and then analyzes it and sticks it into a Mongo database, and then allows us to analyze it in the Mongo database. So I'm adding a bunch of stuff. I'm basically creating an add-on to that tool. Now, the way the MITM proxy works is what you have to do is when you install MITM proxy on your system, you navigate to their special site and you download a security certificate from their site. Once you download this security certificate and it becomes part of your computer, then you point your computer to your MITM proxy process, and your MITM proxy process goes to the actual real thing you're testing. but now you won't get any security warnings because you've accepted the security certificate. So there's a nice little system for making this very smooth, and I find it works pretty good. Mine and Proxy is pretty reliable. It has a few little problems in it. I have encountered one kind of website that it seems to not be able to handle, but most modern websites, it seems like it's able to deal with. And it gives me access to all this stuff flying through the connection.
All right. And somebody asked about your Telegram contract. Is it at Satisifice?
You mean my my Tricentis?
Telegram, because you said that you're available on Telegram.
Oh, you mean well, I'm just saying I have a Telegram account. I mean, I'm on Telegram, so you can contact me on Telegram.
Someone's saying they can't find you there just by your name. So is it under Satisifice?
Oh, it should be under my name, James Marcus Bach. I think.
I think it's at James Marcus Bach.
At James Marcus Bach. Try that.
That's what I have. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't that or Satisifice.
Right,
but I will put it in chat as in the forum here.
I thought you said contract. You said contact.
Oh, that's true. Well, I did want to clarify that too. Your company is Satisifice. You have a contract with Tricentis.
Satisifice Incorporated, the company that my wife owns and that I am the only person who does anything in. Our company is 22 years old. We have contracts with various clients, and one of our clients is Tricentis. And I am through Satisifice, I am working as what they call a technical fellow at Tricentis. And what I'm doing for Tricentis is I'm inventing a new kind of test tool that we're not ready to talk very much about yet. But imagine a test tool that is like a magic carpet for testers, a test tool that's not designed to make testing easy. It's designed to make testers powerful. Think about that. It's the way an IDE makes a developer powerful and feel powerful. The tool we're creating, we want it to make testers feel powerful. So there's a lot of different aspects to it, and we're just in the early stages of developing it. So, but it's a vision that I had 18 months ago, and for a long time we didn't have a team working on it. Now we have a full team working on it, and the developers are going in guns blazing to get something out that we can have as a closed beta pretty soon.
All right. I'm just monitoring the question. Michael Wolf, could you say more about carrots, carrot juice, carrot sticks, boiled carrots, baby carrots, and carrots on a string, etc.? Interview question: how would you test a carrot? Was this from a recent LinkedIn thing you did about carrots?
Well, there was the particular description that I wrote for this talk referred to carrots.
Oh, that's right. It was this. That's right.
Because it's an analogy, right. But there's a reason why I talked about carrots, and the reason was because I don't like boiled carrots. I just really don't like them. So if nutrition was all about carrots, I would just have a bias against it. And similarly, I think I just don't like GUI automation as well as it's a bad thing. It's also a bad thing, but I also have an allergy against it because I've seen too many people fail with GUI level automation. So my carrots thing was an analogy to GUI level automation. And the curious obsession that people have when they talk about test automation, they always seem to mean the same thing. I want to write a script that presses the button so that the people don't gotta press the buttons. That's the only thing that they mean. And I'm just not interested in, I'm a little bit interested in that, but I'm not very interested in that. I'm interested in getting deep into this product. I need rich data. I want to have X-ray vision. I want to be able to have the product tell me how I tested it. And I want to be able to create rich visualizations of that. There's all kinds of ways I can use tools, folks, not just to push buttons.
Yeah, tool-supported testing. It's that's what I like to refer to it as. All right. So we've exhausted the questions list. I want to thank everybody for sticking around a little bit later. We're over time here, and of course, thank you, James, for being willing on short notice to do a really useful talk that challenges the conventions of notions of automation. I will follow up with you, Shelley, about a recording that will be posted probably on not only at QASIG.org, but also on LinkedIn. I believe you'll send a link.
Yeah, we typically send a link out for that. Yeah. So it'll probably be out in the next day or so.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's it. Thanks to everybody. And then the next SIG is actually the SIG that I actually host. Is the PM SIG, the Product Program Project Management SIG, in February. And then there's details at pm-sig.org on that. Closing thoughts, Shelley?
No, just thank you so much, James, for your time tonight. We really appreciate it. It was really interesting. So I'm sure people got some great stuff, great tidbits from you. And yeah, we'll be sharing everything out later. So thank you.
Okay,
all right.
folks.
Well, have a good night, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you.